My dear friends, there comes a moment in every woman's life when she looks at herself and realizes, I was not born to be soft in the way the world defines softness. I was born to be gentle in heart, but powerful in spirit. I was born to be calm, but unshakable. I was born to be kind, but never broken. Today, I want to speak to every woman who is tired of pleasing, tired of explaining, tired of shrinking and ready to rise. My dear audience, today's topic is not about becoming harsh, it's about becoming whole. Not about becoming rude, but becoming rooted. Not about losing softness, but about discovering a strength the world cannot bend. Every woman who rises high, rises because she made one decision. I will no longer abandon myself just to make others comfortable. This is not a message against softness. Softness is beautiful. But when softness becomes self-sacrifice, when gentleness becomes exhaustion, when kindness becomes silence, then life starts demanding a new version of you. A version aligned with the wisdom of God, grounded in your true identity, and committed to your inner peace. There are days you wake up wondering, why do I feel tired even when I haven't done anything wrong? Because emotional labor is invisible. Your heart carries weight no one sees. And unless you learn the silence practice, unless you learn to withdraw from noise and return to your inner world, you will keep draining energy that God intended for your purpose. Progress doesn't come by being available to everyone. Progress comes by being accountable to yourself. There is a day in every woman's life when she finally says, I choose me. I choose my peace. I choose my growth. And that day becomes the beginning of a new chapter. So today, I will share with you 10 powerful points, 10 shifts that can transform a soft woman into a spiritually strong woman, a woman who is calm yet courageous, gentle yet grounded, peaceful yet powerful. Not a woman shaped by pressure, but a woman shaped by purpose. When a woman decides to stop being soft in the way the world has conditioned her to be, something powerful happens inside her. It is not a shift of personality, it is a shift of identity. You see, for years she may have carried the burden of being agreeable, being polite, being understanding, being available. Even when her own soul was tired, she said yes when everything inside her whispered no. She made space for others while shrinking her own needs. And slowly, without even noticing, she started living a life where she was present for everyone except herself. But one day, life gives her a moment, sometimes through pain, sometimes through silence, sometimes through disappointment, where she realizes that softness without boundaries is not kindness, it is self-neglect. And in that moment, she chooses a new path. Not a path where she becomes unkind or rude, but a path where she becomes true to herself. Think of that woman who wakes up every morning and immediately starts worrying about who she must please today. At work, she takes on extra tasks because she doesn't want to be seen as difficult. At home, she carries emotional responsibilities that drain her, but hides her exhaustion behind a smile because she doesn't want to disappoint. With friends, she listens endlessly to problems, but never shares her own because she doesn't want to be a burden. She becomes the emotional anchor for everyone except herself. And gradually, she wonders why she feels empty even though she is surrounded by people. It is because she has not learned the sacred art of keeping a portion of herself for herself. She has given away pieces of her energy without replenishing the source. But the day she pauses, the day she reflects, the day she chooses inner strength over external approval, everything changes. She begins to realize that saying no does not make her selfish, it makes her sincere. She understands that if she keeps pouring into others without filling her own cup, eventually she will run dry, and the world that once praised her softness will not come to rescue her exhaustion. So she learns a beautiful truth. Boundaries are not walls, they are doors that allow peace to enter and chaos to stay out. She begins to speak with clarity instead of guilt. She begins to act with intention instead of fear. She begins to value her time, her emotions, and her presence, not as a luxury, but as a necessity. Imagine her walking into her life with a new energy. Her voice becomes steady, not loud. Her presence becomes grounded, not rigid. She no longer apologizes for needing rest, for needing space, for needing silence. She stops explaining herself to people who are committed to misunderstanding her. She stops chasing people who don't value her. She stops bending for those who would never do the same for her. Instead, she learns to honor the quiet whispers of her intuition. She learns to trust the God-given wisdom in her heart that tells her when something is draining her spirit. And with this awareness, she starts making decisions that reflect her worth, not her fears. She begins small. Maybe she declines a favor she would have forced herself to accept before. Maybe she takes a day just for herself without feeling guilty. Maybe she speaks honestly about her emotional limits. These small steps, when repeated daily, create a completely new version of her. A version who no longer ties her value to how much she can endure, but to how deeply she can stay connected to her own truth. A version who understands that softness is a gift only when it is protected by strength. Just like a flower blooms beautifully, but survives only because its roots are strong and deep beneath the earth, unseen but essential. In daily life, this transformation shows in the simplest ways. When someone tries to take advantage of her kindness, she gently refuses. When someone dismisses her feelings, she does not stay silent. She asserts her truth calmly. When someone brings drama and noise into her life, she does not become reactive, she chooses peace. When someone tries to guilt trip her, she recognizes the pattern and steps away. This is the strength the world doesn't expect, but deeply respects when it finally appears, because nothing is more powerful than a woman who has learned the value of her own energy. And her inner world changes even more dramatically. She begins to feel lighter because she no longer carries unnecessary emotional weight. She begins to feel clearer because her decisions come from alignment, not pressure. She begins to feel spiritually connected because she finally makes time for silence, reflection, and gratitude. She begins to feel grounded because her life is no longer shaped by the noise around her, but by the wisdom within her. She becomes someone who no longer reacts out of fear, but responds out of awareness. Someone who no longer seeks validation, but seeks inner harmony. People may call her changed, but the truth is, she is not changing, she is returning. Returning to who she was always meant to be before the world told her to be soft at the cost of her strength. She learns that real softness is compassion with boundaries, love with wisdom, kindness with clarity, and patience with purpose. She learns that being a strong woman doesn't mean being loud or hard. It means being rooted so deeply in your worth that no external opinion can shake your peace. There comes a time in every woman's life when she realizes that protecting her peace is not selfish, it is sacred. This is the moment when she begins to understand that her inner world, her mind, her emotions, her calmness is far more valuable than the opinions and expectations floating around her. She may have spent years absorbing noise from society telling her how to behave, noise from family telling her what she should prioritize, Noise from friends who expect her to always be available. Noise from her own fears whispering that if she sets boundaries, she might lose people. But as she grows spiritually and emotionally, she discovers that the only thing she is truly in danger of losing is herself if she continues accepting this noise. So she decides to step into silence, not the silence of suppression, but the silence of clarity, the silence where she hears her own soul again. Picture a woman who starts her day surrounded by demands. Her phone buzzes before she even opens her eyes. Messages, calls, notifications. It's as if the world is pulling pieces of her energy before she even stands up. She rushes through her morning, trying to catch up with everything and everyone, yet feeling more exhausted than before. And in the middle of this chaos, there is a small voice inside her saying, "Take a moment for yourself." But she ignores it because she feels guilty taking even a few minutes away from the endless responsibilities she carries. This is how noise becomes a lifestyle. When a woman forgets that she deserves stillness just as much as she deserves air. But one day, life teaches her a gentle lesson. Maybe she feels emotionally drained for no reason. Maybe she finds herself irritated by small things. Maybe she feels disconnected from who she used to be. And in that moment, she understands that noise is not just sound. It is the pressure to be everything for everyone. It is the weight of unspoken expectations. It is the internal chaos that forms when she doesn't pause to breathe. And when she realizes this, she begins to seek silence, not as an escape from life, but as a way to return to herself. This silence shows up in small, sacred moments. She sits quietly in the morning before the world wakes up. She takes a few minutes to listen to her breath instead of listening to everyone else's opinions. She learns to close her eyes and imagine the presence of God around her, calming her, guiding her, anchoring her. She discovers that silence is not the absence of activity, but the presence of awareness. In that silence, she sees the truth of her emotions. She recognizes what drains her and what energizes her. She begins to differentiate between what she wants and what others want from her. Slowly, silence becomes a teacher, showing her the path to inner strength. Daily life starts to shift in subtle yet powerful ways. When someone speaks to her harshly, she no longer absorbs their negativity. She pauses, takes a breath, and responds from a place of groundedness instead of reaction. When someone tries to guilt trip her, she feels the disturbance inside and returns to her inner stillness before making a decision. When life becomes overwhelming, she no longer panics. She steps back into her silence, reorganizes her mind, and moves forward with clarity. She learns that silence doesn't mean withdrawing from people. It means withdrawing from chaos so she can connect deeper with her truth. Imagine her walking through a busy day with this quiet strength. People around her may be arguing, stressing, rushing, but she remains centered. Not because life has become easier, but because she has become more aligned. Her silence protects her like invisible armor. It keeps her from reacting impulsively. It helps her stay calm in situations where she used to break down. It allows her to make decisions without being swayed by pressure. This silence is not weakness, it is wisdom. And then something remarkable happens. The same people who once took advantage of her softness start treating her differently. They feel the shift in her energy. They sense that she is no longer someone who can be manipulated emotionally. They realize that her peace is not up for negotiation. Some may distance themselves because they can no longer control her. Others may grow to respect her even more. But none of this matters to her because she is no longer living for their approval. She is living in alignment with her inner peace. In silence, she becomes aware of the patterns that once drained her. She notices how much energy she wasted explaining herself, overthinking, worrying, and accommodating. She sees how much noise she allowed into her life without questioning whether it belonged there. And she begins to remove anything and anyone that disturbs her inner balance. Not out of anger, but out of love for her own well being. She realizes that peace is not something she finds outside, it is something she creates inside through conscious choices. This silence becomes her